The universe was silent for centuries. Planets lived in peace and humans thought they were alone, but peace never lasts long in space. It all started when the Terran explorers reached the edge of the Andrelis Empire, a kingdom ruled by a proud and beautiful alien empress, known as Lysera the Radiant. Lysera was no ordinary ruler. Her skin shimmered like sapphire, her eyes glowed like stars, and her voice could calm storms. Her people saw her as divine, untouchable, almost perfect. She believed humans were wild, dirty creatures, too emotional, too reckless, too human. But then came Captain Orion Hale. He was a soldier, a mechanic, and a man who fixed things no one else could. When the Terran ship Resolute broke through Andrelis' outer defenses by accident, Lysera saw it as an invasion. Her armies surrounded the ship within minutes. From the balcony of her grand palace, Lysera looked down upon the human ship glowing on the plains below. "Pathetic," she said, her voice like ice. "They come crawling into my stars and call it exploration." Her generals nodded, ready for war. But the human captain didn't send weapons. He sent a message. It was short. Just 3 words. "We come peacefully." Lysera laughed when she heard it. To her, peace meant weakness. So she decided to make an example out of these humans. That night, while her soldiers prepared for battle, the humans were repairing their engines. They didn't know the alien fleet had surrounded them completely. Orion, tired and greasy from engine oil, looked up at the glowing towers of the alien city. "Beautiful," he whispered. "Shame we'll probably die here." Inside the palace, Lysera sat on her golden throne. Her advisors begged her to talk instead of fight. "The humans are strange," one said. "They have machines that heal, tools that build. Maybe we can learn from them." Lysera's sharp eyes turned cold. "Learn," she said, "from monkeys who barely left their dirt ball? Never." And with that, the order was given. At dawn, her fleet attacked. Beams of energy split the sky. The Resolute barely dodged the first wave. The humans didn't fire back. They used shields and strange magnetic fields that twisted the energy bolts away. From her balcony, Lysera watched the battle unfold like a dance. Her lips curved into a smile. "They are clever," she said softly, "but still fragile." Then something unexpected happened. The humans fought back, but not with destruction. They used sound. The Resolute sent out a low, deep pulse like a heartbeat of a planet. It wasn't a weapon. It was a signal. The alien ship's systems glitched. Lights flickered. Engines froze mid-air. For a few seconds, the mighty Andrelis Empire stood helpless. Lysera's smile faded. "What trick is this?" she shouted. Her guards panicked. The humans were still not attacking. Instead, Orion opened a transmission to the entire empire. His voice echoed through every ship, every hall, every speaker. "Your Empress thinks we came to fight," he said calmly. "We came to fix." The message confused everyone. "Fix what?" Lysera's voice roared through the comms. "Fix? You break into my system, disable my ships, and speak of fixing?" Orion smiled faintly from the ship. "Your core reactor is unstable. It will explode in 3 days. We detected it when we entered orbit. We're engineers, not soldiers." For the first time in years, silence filled the Empress's palace. Her advisors turned pale. If the humans were right, their whole empire could vanish. But Lysera couldn't believe it. She refused to show weakness in front of her people. "Lies!" she screamed. Humans twist words like snakes. Still, deep down, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: fear. Her best scientists confirmed the readings within the hour. The human was right. The core was breaking down. The Empire's heart was dying. That night, the Empress stood on her balcony, the same balcony where she had mocked the humans earlier. The city below glowed with golden light, hiding the silent panic spreading through her people. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "How can this be?" Far below, Captain Orion and his small crew were working to stabilize their own ship. They had no idea the Empress herself was watching them from above. Lysera didn't sleep that night. Her pride and her empire were both on the edge of collapse, and the only ones who could save her were the same humans she had laughed at. As the twin moons rose, a strange thought crossed her mind. "If they can fix what my empire cannot," she whispered, "then maybe I was wrong." Her words were carried away by the cold wind, lost among the stars. But destiny had already started moving. The humans didn't know it yet, but soon they would stand face to face with the Empress herself. And that meeting would change everything. Forever. Morning came like fire over the alien capital. The golden towers of Andrelis shone against the sky, and banners of red and silver waved above the palace. But beneath that beauty, fear grew like a silent storm. The Empress's scientists had confirmed the truth. Their power core was dying. If it failed, their world would vanish. Lysera had not slept. She stood by her balcony again, staring at the human ship resting in the distance. The same humans she had almost destroyed were now her only hope. Her pride burned, but her mind whispered. She had no choice. At last, she gave the command. "Bring the human captain to me." Her guards looked at each other in shock. No outsider had ever stepped inside the royal palace, but no one dared question her. Within hours, the order reached the Resolute. Captain Orion Hale wiped grease from his hands and raised an eyebrow when he heard the message. "The Empress herself," he said. "That sounds like trouble." His engineer Davis laughed nervously. "You mean the same Empress who tried to vaporize us yesterday?" Orion smirked. "Yeah, that one." He looked out the ship's window toward the palace, its golden spires glowing in the morning light. "Let's hope she's in a better mood today." The human team prepared carefully. No weapons, only tools. They came as engineers, not warriors. Still, every soldier had a hidden stun baton, just in case. When they entered the grand palace, alien guards with shining armor lined the halls. The air smelled like silver smoke and flowers. Strange floating lights moved along the walls like tiny stars. The humans followed quietly until the throne room doors opened. And there she was. Empress Lysera sat on her throne of crystal and light, surrounded by her advisors. Her blue skin shimmered softly under the glow. Her long white hair flowed down like moonlight. Even angry, she looked divine. The human stopped at the base of the stairs. Orion bowed slightly. "Your Majesty," her eyes narrowed. "You are the one who claims to understand my reactor." "I don't claim," Orion said calmly. "I know." A few of the alien guards hissed at his bold tone, but Lysera raised her hand. "You speak boldly for someone who stands before an empress." Orion smiled faintly. "Where I come from, we fix broken things first, then we argue about titles." The room fell silent. Even Lysera's lips twitched in surprise. It was the first time anyone had spoken to her like that. "You think my empire is broken?" she asked. "I think your machine is," Orion replied. "And if it goes, everything you rule will go with it." Lysera's sharp gaze softened for a moment. She saw something in the human's eyes, not fear, not arrogance, but certainty. This man truly believed he could save her world. "Very well," she said finally. "You will go to the core. Fix it if you can, but know this, if you fail, your death will be slow." Orion gave a small nod. "Fair deal." The humans were escorted deep beneath the palace into a vast chamber glowing with unstable blue energy. The air buzzed with static. Sparks leapt from the walls. The alien engineers were terrified to even approach the reactor. Orion walked right up to it. "She wasn't kidding," he muttered. "This thing's about to blow." He studied the machinery with careful eyes, then turned to his team. "Davis, I'll need the stabilizer coil and a plasma dampener. And keep the coolant flow steady." The alien engineers watched in silent disbelief. The humans worked fast, confident, fearless. Every move seemed precise, like they'd done this 1,000 times. One of the alien scientists whispered, "They treat the core as if it were alive." Lysera arrived quietly, observing from the balcony above. She watched the humans climb over the reactor, using strange tools and old tricks. The way they worked together fascinated her. They were loud, joking, arguing, and yet somehow everything moved in harmony. Finally, Orion called out, "All right, try rerouting the main surge." The lights flickered. For a moment, the entire palace shook. Then silence. The energy pulse stabilized. The once blinding glow softened into a calm, steady hum. The Empress's people gasped. The readings on their screens showed perfect balance. The core was safe. Orion wiped his hands. "There. Not perfect, but it'll hold." Lysera stepped down slowly, her long gown sweeping across the floor. "You truly fixed it?" Orion shrugged lightly. "It's what we do." The Empress studied him for a long time. Her pride wanted to find fault, but her heart whispered another truth. Gratitude. "You saved millions of lives," she said quietly, "and you tried to kill me," he replied with a half-smile. Lysera's lips curved slightly. "Then we are even." For the first time, both laughed. Softly, carefully, the tension between their worlds melted just a little. As the humans prepared to leave, Lysera turned back to her balcony, gazing out at the golden city. A strange feeling grew in her chest. Curiosity. Who were these humans who laughed at death and fixed the impossible? She looked back toward Orion. "Human," she called. He stopped. "Yes, Your Majesty?" "Tomorrow," she said, "you will dine with me. There is more I wish to understand. About your kind." Orion nodded. Wouldn't miss it. As the doors closed behind him, the Empress smiled faintly to herself. For the first time in her life, she was intrigued, not by power, not by fear, but by a human. And though she didn't know it yet, this meeting was only the beginning. The days ahead would bring chaos, laughter, and a moment so ridiculous that the entire palace would never forget it. But that was still to come. The next evening, the grand palace of Andrelis was alive with light and music. The Empress had ordered a feast. Golden tables, crystal dishes, and glowing alien fruit that shimmered like small stars. The halls were filled with soft, haunting melodies, and the air smelled of sweet spice and silver smoke. But everyone's attention was on one person, the human. Captain Orion Hale walked in wearing his simple Terran uniform, still smudged from machine oil. Every noble in the room stared in shock. In a world of shining armor and glittering gowns, the human looked completely out of place. Yet he walked as if he belonged there. At the end of the long hall, Empress Lysera sat waiting. She wore a gown made of woven light, her silver hair braided with golden threads. When Orion approached, she gave a small nod. "You came," she said softly. "I was told there would be food," Orion replied with a grin. A few alien nobles gasped at his casual tone, but Lysera smiled faintly. "You humans are fearless." "Not fearless," he said, taking his seat. "Just hungry." The alien servants began to bring strange dishes, floating fruits, glowing drinks, and something that looked suspiciously alive. Orion eyed it carefully. Lysera noticed his hesitation. "It's called Valune, a delicacy of my world." "It's moving," he said dryly. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. Only a little. The room filled with quiet amusement. The Empress was laughing, a rare sight. Her nobles exchanged confused glances. No one dared interrupt her joy. As the dinner went on, their conversation grew more relaxed. Lysera asked about Earth, about human life, about why they traveled so far from home. Orion told her about oceans, about machines, about humanity's endless curiosity. "We explore because we can," he said. "Sometimes we break things, but most of the time we fix them." Lysera tilted her head. "You fix things, even when they're not yours?" He nodded. "If something's broken, it doesn't matter who it belongs to. It deserves to work again." The Empress looked at him thoughtfully. "Strange creatures, you humans, so simple, and yet somehow wise." Orion smirked. "We get that a lot." For a while there was peace between them, two rulers from different worlds sharing laughter. But pride never stays quiet for long. One of Lysera's generals stepped forward. "My Empress, forgive me, but are we now friends with the same species who invaded our sky?" Lysera's eyes flashed. "Mind your tone," but Orion spoke before she could continue. "I wouldn't call us friends," he said. "More like neighbors with a long fence and a shared problem." The general frowned. "You mock our Empress." Orion raised an eyebrow. "No, I just think she could use a better balcony railing." The entire hall froze. Lysera blinked. "A what?" "The railing," Orion said, pointing toward the balcony doors. "It's cracked. I saw it when I came in." A murmur spread through the nobles. No one had ever dared to point out a flaw in the royal palace. Lysera stared at him, half in disbelief, half in curiosity. "You noticed a crack?" she asked. "I fix things, remember?" he said. Without waiting for permission, Orion stood and walked toward the balcony. The doors opened, letting in a cool night breeze. The view was breathtaking, twin moons above, the golden city below. Lysera followed him, her curiosity stronger than her pride. She stepped beside him, resting her hands lightly on the marble rail. For a moment, both stood in silence, watching the stars. "You humans," she said softly. "Always looking at the sky, always searching for something more." "Maybe," he replied. "Or maybe we just like fixing what's broken out there and in here." He tapped his chest lightly. Lysera's lips curved into a faint smile. "You speak like a poet, yet you smell like engine grease." Best kind of poet, Orion said with a grin. Then suddenly there was a small crack, a sharp sound from beneath the rail. Lysera froze. Orion looked down. A thin fracture ran along the marble edge. The same crack he had noticed earlier had grown deeper. Careful, Orion said quickly. Don't lean on too late. The Empress shifted her weight, and with a sharp snap, part of the railing gave way. Lysera gasped and tried to pull back, but her golden gown caught between the rails. She lost balance for a moment and ended up bent forward, stuck halfway over the balcony. The hall behind them went silent. 2 guards ran forward, horrified. "Your Majesty!" Orion blinked, then, against every rule of royal etiquette, started to laugh. He tried to stop, but the sight was too absurd. The most powerful woman in the galaxy, the untouchable Empress, caught like a cat in a curtain. Lysera turned her head sharply, her face a mix of fury and embarrassment. "Do not laugh," she snapped. "I'm trying," Orion said between breaths, failing miserably. The guards tried to help, but her gown was tightly caught. Every time she moved, it pulled tighter. "Stop pulling," she yelled. "You're making it worse." The nobles in the hall stood frozen, unsure whether to help or run. The Empress of Andrelis, stuck on her own balcony, was something no one had ever imagined seeing. Finally, Orion stepped forward, still grinning. "Hold still, Your Majesty. I'm a mechanic, remember?" Her eyes narrowed. "You will not—" But he was already at work, gently freeing the fabric from the crack. "If anyone asks," he said softly, "let's just say it was a diplomatic accident." She glared at him, but a small laugh escaped her lips despite herself. "You humans are impossible." "And yet," Orion said, helping her stand upright again, "you invited one to dinner." Lysera's cheeks glowed a soft shade of blue as she fixed her gown. "This never happened," she said firmly. "Of course not," Orion said with a grin. "Wouldn't dream of it." But as he turned away, his small smile grew wider. He knew this moment would never be forgotten, by him or by anyone in that palace. Behind them, the stars of Andrelis sparkled like they were laughing too. The palace of Andrelis had seen wars, coronations, and galactic peace treaties, but never laughter like this. By sunrise, every corridor echoed with whispers about the Empress and the balcony. Servants whispered it. Soldiers grinned behind helmets. Even the royal advisors pretended to cough whenever the word balcony was mentioned. Of course, no one dared to speak openly in front of Lysera. But rumors have wings, and by midday they had flown across the empire. The Empress was furious. She sat on her throne, her face calm but her voice sharp. "Who started this rumor?" No one answered. The guards looked at their boots. The advisors pretended to study data tablets. Lysera sighed. "So no one knows, yet everyone laughs." Her general cleared his throat. "It spread from the palace kitchens, Your Majesty. They say—" "The human helped you." Lysera's eyes flashed. "He did not help me. I was temporarily caught." "Yes, Your Majesty," the general said quickly, hiding a smile. "Remove that smile," she said coldly. "Yes, Your Majesty." Lysera stood up and walked toward her balcony, the same one that had nearly become her public defeat. The railing had already been repaired. New marble gleamed where the crack once was. She ran her hand along it, remembering the moment. The panic, the embarrassment, and then the human's laughter. No one had ever laughed at her before. No one had ever dared, but somehow his laughter hadn't felt cruel. It felt honest. Lysera frowned. "That ridiculous human," she muttered. "Why do I keep thinking about him?" Down below in the docking bay, Orion was preparing to leave. His mission was complete. The reactor was fixed, the humans were safe, and the Empress hadn't executed him yet. Davis grinned as they loaded supplies. "So, Captain, you saved an empire and made the Queen of the Stars blush. What's next?" Orion chuckled, hopefully leaving before she changes her mind. But just as they were about to board the shuttle, a group of alien guards appeared. "Captain Orion Hale," one said formally. "The Empress requests your presence immediately." Orion sighed. "I knew it. Trouble." When he entered the throne room again, Lysera was standing by the balcony looking out at the sky. She didn't turn to face him. "You humans," she said quietly. "You find everything funny, don't you?" "Not everything," Orion said. "Just the things we survive." Lysera finally turned, her eyes calm but curious. "You survived me, Captain Hale. That alone is impressive." "I try my best," he said with a half-smile. For a moment, there was silence. Then she surprised him. "I should thank you," he raised an eyebrow. "For not dying?" "For saving my empire," she said softly. "And for helping me that night." Orion grinned. "That balcony had a personal vendetta against you." Lysera sighed, hiding her amusement. "You find joy in my embarrassment?" He shook his head. "No, I just find it comforting that even queens have bad days." Her gaze softened. "You are not like the others, human. Most fear me, you tease me." "Maybe that's why you invited me back," he said. She looked away quickly. "Do not assume too much." But Orion noticed the faint shimmer in her cheeks, a soft blue glow that only appeared when she was flustered. Changing the topic, Lysera gestured toward a table filled with strange blueprints and holograms. "I wish to understand your technology. You built devices that calm reactors and shield cities. Teach us." Orion studied the designs. "These systems could work better if you simplified them. Sometimes power comes from making things smaller, not bigger." Lysera tilted her head. "Simpler, yet stronger. That sounds like you humans," he smiled. "Complicated hearts, simple plans." For hours they worked side by side. She watched how he moved, how he spoke to her engineers with respect, not fear. Her people began to see him differently, too. The alien guards who once saw him as an intruder now whispered of his cleverness. But one group wasn't happy. The Empress's council. "They will turn against you," warned her chief advisor that night. "The nobles mock you behind closed doors. They say the human has made you weak." Lysera looked out the window at the city lights. "If saving my people is weakness, then perhaps they should fear it." Her advisor bowed, uneasy. "And the human? What will you do with him?" Lysera's eyes softened. "For now, I will learn from him." Later, alone on her balcony again, she gazed up at the twin moons. The night breeze touched her face gently and she smiled faintly. "At least the balcony holds steady tonight," she whispered. Down below, Orion looked up from the docking bay, sensing her gaze somehow. He couldn't see her clearly, but he felt her presence, strong, proud, and somehow human. He chuckled to himself. She's going to be trouble. In the palace above, Lysera was thinking the same thing. Both of them from two different worlds. Had no idea that the galaxy was already watching them. Because in every corner of the Empire, the story had spread. The Empress who got stuck on her balcony, and the human who laughed. What began as a rumor had turned into a legend. Days turned into weeks and peace returned to the Andrelis Empire. But peace was never easy when pride still lived in people's hearts. The Empress and the human captain worked together daily in the palace workshop, designing new systems to strengthen the city's defenses. Every morning Lysera would arrive in her royal gown, and Orion would already be there, sleeves rolled up, tinkering with alien machinery as if he had built it himself. "You work before sunrise," she said one morning. "Humans truly have no concept of rest?" Orion smiled. "Machines don't fix themselves, Your Majesty." Lysera shook her head. "Perhaps that's why your kind keeps surviving. You refuse to stop moving." They spent hours side by side, exchanging ideas and laughter. Sometimes their arguments filled the hall, Orion's humor clashing with Lysera's pride. But somehow, it always ended in quiet smiles. But outside the workshop, not everyone smiled. In the dark council chamber, the Empress's advisors gathered in secret. The oldest among them, Lord Varen, slammed his fist on the table. "This human has made our Empress forget her place. She laughs now. She jokes. The people whisper his name more than hers." Another nodded. "He is dangerous. He has changed her mind, and soon he will change her throne." A third voice spoke quietly. "Shall we remove him?" Varen's eyes narrowed. "No, that would anger her. We must let fate remove him for us." And fate, as if listening, brought an opportunity. 3 days later, a massive energy wave struck the outer edge of the Andrelis system. One of the Empire's moons began to break apart, its core leaking strange radiation. The Empress received the news during a meeting. "Source unknown," her general said. "But it's spreading. If it reaches our planet, it will poison the atmosphere." Lysera stood immediately. "Prepare the fleet. We will intercept it." Orion, standing nearby, spoke up. "You can't just blast radiation, Empress. It'll scatter and spread faster." Lysera frowned. "Then what do you suggest?" He studied the holographic map. "You have a magnetic stabilizer in your defense network, right? If we channel its field and reverse the polarity, We can contain the wave instead of destroying it. The generals exchanged confused glances. Lysera crossed her arms. You're suggesting we trust human science to save an alien moon? I'm suggesting we trust logic, Orion replied calmly. The room went silent. Lysera studied him for a moment, then nodded. Prepare the systems. Hours later, in orbit above the glowing moon, the operation began. The Andrelis fleet hovered like silver birds around the broken satellite. Orion stood beside Lysera on the command bridge, surrounded by alien controls and flickering lights. Magnetic field charge at 60%, a technician reported. Orion checked his readings. We'll need at least 85 or it won't hold. Keep it steady, Lysera glanced at him. You seem calm, he grinned. That's because I haven't told you this could explode. Lysera stared at him. You what? Before he could answer, a tremor shook the ship. The wave hit early. The lights dimmed, alarms blared, and energy bolts flashed across the screen. Shields failing, shouted a guard. Lysera gripped the console. All ships, hold formation! Orion moved fast, his hands flying across the controls. Redirect the field to the secondary array. Now, the technician hesitated. But that could overload the generator. Then overload it, Orion snapped. Better fried than dead. The command bridge filled with light as the magnetic field expanded. The wave of radiation slammed into it like a storm against glass, but it held. Slowly, painfully, the energy began to bend, curling around the containment field. Lysera watched in awe. It's working. Orion nodded, sweat on his forehead. Almost there. Then another explosion rocked the ship. The stabilizer coil burst, sparks flying. Without thinking, Orion ran to the open panel, grabbing hot metal and pulling wires with his bare hands. Captain, you'll be burned, shouted a guard. Already am, he yelled. The smell of smoke filled the air. The ship groaned. Lysera rushed to his side. Stop! You'll kill yourself. Orion looked up, smiling faintly through the chaos. Wouldn't be the first time I fixed something that tried to kill me. Together, they pulled the final cable and sealed the panel. The reactor stabilized. The light faded. Silence filled the room. It's contained, the technician whispered. The moon is stable. Lysera exhaled slowly, her chest heavy with relief. You did it. Orion sank against the wall, his hands blistered. We did it, Your Majesty. Lysera knelt beside him, her regal voice soft for the first time. You risked your life for my people, he shrugged weakly. You're my favorite Empress, Lysera smiled despite herself. You are impossible. The crew around them began to cheer. The entire ship filled with joy. Outside, the radiation cloud vanished into the void. The moon, once dying, now glowed peacefully again. But deep inside the ship, far from the cheering bridge, Lord Varan watched through a communicator. His eyes were cold. The human survived again, he said bitterly. Then we must find another way. Back on the command deck, Lysera looked at Orion's burned hands and said quietly, You risk too much. He smiled. I fix things, remember? Her gaze softened. Yes. And perhaps, Captain, you are also fixing me. Neither spoke after that. They stood side by side, watching the stars. Two souls from different worlds, united by chaos, courage, and something far greater than duty. But somewhere in the shadows, the seeds of betrayal had already begun to grow. The Andrelis Empire shone brighter than ever. The crisis was over, the moon was saved, and peace filled the skies. But peace rarely lasts when jealousy hides in the dark. Whispers grew in the palace halls. Some called the Empress wise. Others said she had become weak. And the name of Captain Orion Hale was now spoken with both admiration and fear. Lord Varan, the Empress's oldest advisor, gathered a small group of loyalists in secret. He has turned her heart, Varan said, his voice cold. Every word she speaks now carries his scent. Every plan she makes sounds human. One of the guards hesitated. But he saved us. Varan's eyes narrowed. A savior today can be a conqueror tomorrow. That night, as stars burned above the palace, Varan's men moved quietly through the halls. Their target was not the throne, but the human. Orion was in the palace workshop fixing a communication relay when the sound of boots echoed behind him. He turned, smiling at first. Don't tell me another balcony broke? No one laughed. The soldiers surrounded him, weapons raised. Before he could speak, one struck him with a stun rod. The world spun, then faded into darkness. When Orion woke, he was in the throne chamber, alone, chained before the Empress's seat. Lysera entered slowly, her expression unreadable. The guard stood back waiting for her command. "What happened?" he asked, his voice weak. "Your people jumped me for my sense of humor?" Lysera didn't answer immediately. She looked torn between anger and sorrow. "They say you plan to steal our technology and sell it to other humans." Orion blinked. "That's insane. I don't even sell used engines without fixing them first." Her lips twitched, but her eyes remained cold. "Do you deny it?" "Of course I do," he said. "Lysera, you know me better than that." The sound of her name from his lips made her heart tighten. "You will address me as Your Majesty." "Fine," he said quietly. "Your Majesty." "Then you already know this is a lie." The room fell silent. For a long time, Lysera said nothing. Her mind battled itself. Duty against truth, pride against trust. Finally, she turned to Varen. "What proof do you have?" Varen held out a device. "We intercepted a human transmission." His voice sending coordinates. Orion frowned. "That's not my voice." Lysera looked at the recording. The sound was distorted, robotic, fake, but convincing. "He's dangerous," Varen said. "End this before it's too late." The Empress's eyes flickered with uncertainty. Then she spoke quietly. "Leave us." The guards hesitated, then obeyed. The doors closed. Only she and Orion remained. For a moment, she simply looked at him, this strange, stubborn human who had saved her world and made her laugh. "Why didn't you run?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Because I fix things. Running never fixes anything." Her eyes softened. "Even now you joke." "Only when I'm scared," he said. She stepped closer, studying his face. "Why would you risk so much for me, Captain?" He met her gaze. "Because when everyone else saw a queen, I saw a person who could laugh." Her breath caught for a moment. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not in her entire life. Then, from behind the door came a faint noise. Varen's voice whispering orders. A spark of realization hit her. She turned sharply, pressing a button on her bracelet. The chamber's security feed lit up, showing Varen and his men outside, carrying energy rifles. "They plan to kill you," she whispered. "Then we better fix that," Orion said. Lysera spun toward the door, her voice rising. "Guards, arrest Varen!" But Varen stormed in, shouting, "Too late, Empress! You've already betrayed your blood for a human." He aimed his rifle. Orion moved without thinking, pulling Lysera behind him. The blast hit his shoulder, spinning him to the floor. Lysera screamed, anger replacing fear. She raised her hand and a surge of blue energy burst from her bracelet, throwing Varen across the room. He hit the wall and fell silent, the chamber filled with smoke and sparks. Lysera knelt beside Orion, her hands trembling. "You fool. Why did you protect me?" He winced, trying to smile. "Habit. You could have died," she shouted. "Yeah," he said softly, "but at least you wouldn't get stuck on another balcony alone." Her laugh came through tears. "You still joke?" "Only when it hurts," he whispered. She pressed her hand over his wound. Her energy glowed, healing the burn slowly. "You will live," she said firmly. "That is an order." He smiled faintly. "Yes, Your Majesty." Hours later, Varen was gone. His rebellion was silenced. The Empress stood before her people once more, strong and radiant. But something inside her had changed. Pride had softened into wisdom. Power had learned compassion. In her next speech, she spoke words no ruler of Andrelis had ever said. Humans are not enemies. They are teachers. They remind us that perfection means nothing without laughter, and power means nothing without heart. The crowd listened in silence. Some bowed, some cried, and from the balcony, yes, that balcony, Lysera stood beside Orion, both looking over the city below. "This time," he said with a grin. "You sure it's safe?" She laughed. "If it breaks again, I will drag you down with me." He chuckled. "Fair deal." As the twin moons rose above them, their reflections danced across the marble rail. The Empress and the human stood side by side, not ruler and subject, not conqueror and savior, but equals, and though the galaxy would tell their story for centuries as the day the Empress got stuck on the balcony, the truth was much deeper. It was the day an Empress learned to laugh, and a human taught a world how to feel alive again.